back again, as the mental power increases over the world, for technology and knowledge and understanding is growing all over the nations. There's a fear of human error intelligence machinery and other machinery that comes with artificial intelligence. What can you say about that?
It's a very interesting question because I have several books about this. The first one is called The Future Post-Human Artificial Intelligence. The second one is called The Future Post-Human Robotics. The third one is called The Future Post-Human Computing, for example. And the fourth one is called The Future Post-Human Engineering. I talk about a lot of these issues. Now, to answer your question, normally intelligence, we talk about human intelligence. Even if you don't mention the word human, we mean human intelligence. Occasionally, we talk about animal intelligence. But now, in the 20th century, we have something amazing happening, which is that we succeeded in inventing computers. And now we use computers to do a lot of things, processing information, but now we have supercomputers. In fact, the supercomputers nowadays, by China especially, but also by the US, they are so fast per second that they can do a lot of things per second in a way that in the older days it might take you 1,000 years to even do. But that's only the beginning, because the human mind is so complex that even if you are able to do what a supercomputer can do, they still cannot do many of things that we humans can do naturally. So you ask the question, what is the future of that? Will that transcend the human? No. In some ways, they will transcend for sure. In some ways, they do not. Let me give you some examples. Now, in terms of processing information, sooner or later, computers will surpass human intelligence in such a way they can do things. For example, if I ask you, do you remember when you were on the first day of your birth? Do you remember what you did? I say, well, the first day of my birth, I don't remember. Now, a supercomputer in the future should be able to remember exactly what happened on that day. On the day 1962 in the morning, 9:05. Exactly what happened then. Why your memory? You just go back and retrieve your memory. Computing they can compute information so fast and so much. They can, if I ask you, can you do some calculations of all these equations together? Just by your hand. You say, wow, I have to go back and use the hand money calculation. I have to go through page equation by equation. Supercomputing in the future can just like this. Give you a precise answer. Now, it sounds very amazing. In a way, it is amazing. That's why we are using machines more and more to do a lot of things in the factory, because they are doing much better than we can do. So far, so good. On the other hand, computers will not be able to do things that we can do. Let me give you some examples. Intuition is a good example. When I talk to you, human interaction, in many ways, we read each other's mind. We have certain intuitive. Sometimes computer makes some mistake. You say to yourself, "This is so stupid." I mean, it's a small thing. Computer cannot even understand some small errors, but we can look at that very clearly and say, "No, this is not what it means." So this kind of thing, the common sense, the intuitiveness, is very hard for a computer to like and reason in the way that we do as human. Having said that, I said something very unusual, another theory that I propose, because I have proposed more and vision of the future so far. One of them is on this question of post-humanity, because a lot of people nowadays in the community of research, they argue, for example, that they keep arguing whether machines can copy humans, whether machine can surpass human, whether machine can do things that we can do easily. I said in my publication that it's time to think something else. That something else is not that question anymore. That's a primitive question. In the farther future, post-humans will start asking the question what they should do such that they behave like post-human, not human anymore. In the future, by the way, post-human will look back at us humans and say how primitive they are. We don't want to be like them. We don't want to dress like them. We don't want to think like them. We don't want to feel like them. Those are primitive beings. Now we want to transcend that to become more amazing, more powerful, more spiritual, whatever that might be. So that is the deeper question that a lot of scientists do not ask. Because why? Because they are humans. They think like a human. They are scientists. They are thinkers. But they think like human thinkers, human scientists. All the questions that they ask are human questions, human-centered questions. I'm saying in my publication, it's time to speculate at least what the post-human will think. And that would be very different. And therefore, your question in that time will not make sense to them. They don't care anymore. They don't want you. They do not want us. Just as nowadays we discover animals, the ape, chimpanzee, and all that, they have a lot of common in us. It's called evolution. In fact, 90% of the genes that we share now, we can share with chimpanzee and apes. But even that 2%, there are tremendous differences. That's why we don't like to behave like them. We don't want to be saying, my father, my grandfather is a chimpanzee. No one said something like that, except the evolutionary biologists. Okay, why? For the same reason. In the human future, I said, the post-human will say, we don't even talk about the humans. That is a deeper question in history that the future generation will ask. It will not be just about machine. There are many other life forms that I have proposed in my publications, but I focus on artificial intelligence because you asked me so.
Thank you. As you understand, Doctor, it is almost impossible when you talk to a theologian talking about the future, pro-human, excluding human destiny. We always say, when we talk of human, we talk of souls, we talk of spirits, we talk of body, but most of the people don't talk of the real mind of human life. Can you say something about human destiny? What happens when people die? When people die, their body decay, their souls. Can you talk a bit about human souls after physical life?
There are several questions here at the same time in this small question. Is question about the soul, is question about the human spirit, is question about the human body. So
let's go on this
three different things. They are very separate. But let me handle them quickly, and then you can pick whatever you want to talk about, so I can tell more about that. I have also written quite a lot of books about this too. One of them, The Future Post-Human Religion. The second book is called The Future Post-Human Thanatology, in which we talk about death and after death, for example. Let me answer the question now about the human body. You asked the question, it's an interesting question, why do theologians in human history, when they talk about this, they always ask about the human destiny? Why do they care so much about humans? The reason, because, as I said before, in a different way, they are humans. In biology, for example, in evolution, and that's one of the things I said in another book, Beyond Nature and Nurture, in which I argue that a lot of things that we think, that we like, that we feel, is based on our biology. So, for example, a man, for example, thinks in a certain way, a woman thinks in a certain way. Why? Why should they think not the same way? Why they have to think differently? Because they are biologically different. And the same thing about humans. When we think about certain things, we like to think of them in terms of the human mindset. We impose our humanness into everything we touch. Even in some nowadays weather, if there's a tornado, we talk about tornado John, or we talk about a explosion, we say explosion Jennifer. Why do you put the word Jennifer or John afterwards? Because there's human imposition on reality. That's how we think about reality. And I'm saying in my publications, whether you are religious or not, you must learn about the biases such that you can make yourself better, understand the reality better as a theologian in this sense. And that's why when I talk about religion in this case, I transcend that further and say it's also time to stop thinking like a human theologian, start thinking about a post-human theologian. It's tough, it's difficult, but at least I'm a founding father of that. If I could do that, why not you? I'm human too. Well, I'm unusual in a way, but at least we can do half of that. That could be very amazing. Now, what's going to happen to the human body? Well, in the human future, number one, there is a human-centric question, because in outer space in the future, I argue that in my publications, the body will shrink further and further in evolution, to the point I talk about one of the post-human life forms is one called the floating consciousness. you have no body anymore. Why? Because in outer space, you have zero gravity. As you live in zero gravity all the time in outer space for a long, long time, what's going to happen to your human body? Your bones are weaker, your body become less and less and less, to the point that over time, not just in 1 year or 1 week or something like that, we're talking about many decades or centuries and even years and all that, it will shrink to the point that future intelligent life forms in the universe, in outer space, can become bodiless. One reason. Another reason is that you have a body, you have to eat every day. You need nutrition, water, food, and all the air and all that. That is a lot of consumption. That's not very effective. In the future, in outer space, those kind of life forms, they will think up about something. They don't need to consume too much anymore. Remember, in space, like the spacecraft, you have to send supplies every day to the International Space Station. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of energy. And that's why we have to keep doing that. But if you are in outer space, who is going to supply you? Let's say you are in outer space right now, somewhere in the distance, and there's no one surrounding you. Who's going to send supplies to you? So you have to think of another solution now. One way is that we will suspend, we will use the body less and less and less, so that we don't need to have so many supplies in the spacecraft to supply it for you to consume. In outer space, by the way, in all those spacecraft, it might take you million years for you to go through from one, and then on top of the wormholes and all that you can have shorter. The point is, you stay there for a long, long time. This kind of solution on Earth is not a good solution. That's why your body becomes less and less important in the farther future. And what's going to happen to your body? Well, your body will biologically, it will decompose. Just a few days after you die, and you will see that you will start decompose. Eventually, some worms will come out of you. Why? From all those bacteria that you have. And then you will decompose, and then you have the bones and all that. But there's only one question. In the farther future, by the way, this question becomes less and less. The more important question now is about the soul and the spirit. Now we go to the more important question. What is the human spirit in this sense? Or what is the spirit in the farther future? They will discover some new spirituality. And that's why in the two examples that I just gave you in another interview about post-capitalism and post-democracy, how come those political and economic systems become so primitive in the future? We think that it's amazing. That's the best, highest achievement that we have. But in the future, when those people look back, it's like how primitive we are, things like that. Because the spirit, the mindset of a capitalist, in many ways, is very primitive. They are so greedy. They lack spirituality. Money, everything. You reduce all relations in human life in terms of money. You have money, then I kiss your ass. If you don't have money, you are nothing, you get out, you leave, I don't want you. Is that the way that you want to treat each other as beings in that sense? So in the post-human world, especially in the another theory of mine, which is called the post-capitalistic, they try to transcend this kind of obsession with money and greediness that we now glorify in no time.
Dr.
That is the question.
Can we stay in the fact that you have addressed about the body and its decay? And can you address more about the spirit and the soul? So that before we close, I'll ask you to address also briefly on the democracy and capitalism. Can you address more about the spirit and soul after one's death? Okay. There is also another interesting twist over here, because in the post-human spirit, in a way, that's also related to post-democratic and post-capitalism, because it's related to the post-democratic tradition, because it addresses the issue of equality in a fundamental way. So it challenges the way that we think about equality, which is fundamentally flawed. In my books, for example, I talk about, let's say in the case of the US as an example, that nowadays we have a lot of reverse racism, reverse classism, reverse sexism, for example. And we also have the tendency as a power, we can invade any other country that we feel like. In the name of democracy, well, we want to regime change. Is this democratic or not? Is it about equality or not?
You see that? So what I'm trying to say is that in the post-democratic tradition, some of this issue about equality will be addressed in a way that democracy could not. The same thing about capitalism. The notion about that greed is good. Have you watched that film? I think a few years ago. That is a very wonderful statement. And the actor said, greed is good in Wall Street. Now, greed will not become good in those civilizations that I just mentioned. The notion of spirituality will change. That is therefore how the spirit and the soul will change in that context. But there's only one way, by the way. There's also another way, which is called about religion. I talk also about new forms of religion in the future, post-human religions. They will come up and replace the one that we have nowadays. So all of them tie together into the two questions that you talk about, the soul, the spirit, in relation to the context of capitalism and democracy, and of course I add one further in terms of religion in the end.
Oh, thank you so much, Doctor, talking about religion. By the way, there are religions, so many religions in the world, but we don't capitalize and make it a subject of our talking. Can you please talk about democracy? As I heard you talking in one of the interviews with a Philippine interviewer, you spoke about democracy and capitalism. And you said by the end, the far future, capitalism and democracy will end. Can you talk about it?
Mm-hmm. I mentioned some of that already. Maybe it's time for me to give you one example. Someone asked me this question in another interview. Let me give you one example. In the case of America nowadays, if you are a black, if you criticize a white, it's okay. That's called fight for justice against racism. But if a white criticizes a black, he is called racist. If a man criticizes a woman, that's called sexist. But if a woman criticizes a man, that's called fighting for justice against sexism. If a rich criticizes a poor, you are classist. But if a poor criticizes the rich, you are talking about fighting for exploitation, class exploitation. If a against Muslims, if you are a gay or homosexual, you criticize someone who is straight, it's okay. You are fighting for that oppression against you because they don't like you being homosexual. But if you criticize them, that's okay. But if they criticize you, no, they are homophobic. If a Palestinian criticizes a Jew, that's called anti-Semitic. If a Jew criticizes a Palestinian, that's called fighting against terrorists. Think about this. I can give on. There are many other examples. Why this double standard? Why? Justice is justice, right? If you do something wrong, just say, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Thank you for pointing out to me. Wow, that's so progressive. It's amazing you learn something else. But I say, you are 60 to me on me. What kind of justice is this? I'm talking about this as the reverse system. The notion of equality is fundamentally flawed. That's why the more we impose equality on that, the more we see that it comes up in different forms. That is the problem of democracy in one way. But that's only one issue. There are many other issues. I spent more than 3 books on that.
Thank you so much. This has been an amazing interview with Professor Dr. Peter Baofu. And he looks knowledgeable and learned and scholar as an American. I was so interested to have an interview with him because of his broad mind and broad spectrum on how he analyzes things. But fact is, there is life after death, and there is God who stays in heaven. For we who have Christian faith, we believe that life begins and life ends. All things begins and all things finally ends. There's a country for the believers, people who believe in Christ, called heaven. That if you believe in Jesus Christ, you have a hope to go to heaven. Of course, it's true, as the professor and doctor indicated, our bodies will decay. Unto soil you shall go again, and your spirit will go to heaven. Viewers, just think about it. that where do you go after you die? There's a country called heaven. You get it by believing in Jesus Christ our Lord. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.